Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode and another interview. And I'm so excited because I've just recently connected with Toni and she's amazing and she's doing something that I've always wanted to do and help women in the property industry. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. So over to you, Toni.
Hello, Radhika. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for speaking on my live last week as well. Really appreciate that. Such a productive conversation. Just a bit about me. I've been in property for around 3 years now. I would say I initially got established an interest around 4 years ago, but I just wasn't really sure if it was the right route for me. At that time, I had applied for a uni. I wanted to get in. Well, I was accepted to get in. But yeah, I just kind of took a different route. My friend went. We were supposed to do the same course. But I just thought, you know what? I think working is the right route for me to go down. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of figuring out what would be the next step for me. I was just reading some books, finding out about, like self-development, all of that type of stuff at that point. And I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad. So there I was introduced into property, investing, the advantages of obviously investing and passive income, all of that type of stuff. So I thought, okay, this sounds really interesting. And then, from there, I just did some research, looked up some YouTube videos about property investing, what it actually is. Thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't have any money. Like, I was 21? Yeah, 20 at the time. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, this isn't for me. Maybe I need to get a job, maybe in my 30s, go down that route then. But then I was introduced to rent to rent and then property sourcing, and reached out to a few people. I think there's like a online platform where so many property professionals speak on. I think it's called Property Hub or something like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of put it out there, and then I was, it was really interesting because I put it out there and people were it's not really going to happen, quite negative feedback.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, the best thing for me to do is to get a job in the property field as an estate agent. So that's what I did. And in that job, I continued to connect with there's this guy, his name is Adam Vickers. I went to a networking event, I met him, and he kind of introduced me into the property sourcing world. Mm-hmm. And he kind of held my hand throughout that. So I'll never forget that. And then just continued building up knowledge in that field. Wanted to do rent to rent myself. And at the time, the job that I was working at, my manager was already doing rent to rent.
Oh,
so I kind of had an insight into his properties.
Yeah.
Began to find properties for him as well, for his rent to rent portfolios. We did a few viewings together, and so that's basically the insight as to where I started. I've been independent for the past 2 years now. So with that, just been sourcing properties. I also do quite a bit of private rentals as well. And I have 2 rent-to-rent properties also with my business partner. And it's funny because I left my job 2 years ago. I didn't actually want to leave, but I was taking too many holidays.
It's so funny because even now I'm like, oh, I need a day off, but then you only have a certain amount of holidays per year. And you're like, I need to do some property stuff. So
yeah, literally. And also that time, because I wanted to go to Jamaica for a month because my mom lives over there and I hadn't seen her till 3 years prior. So I was like, no, I need to see my mom. So tried to patch it out, but I ended up leaving in the end. And my manager was like, hold on, you're going to do the property sourcing thing. Why don't we kind of do it together? And then he left as well. And we still work together. He has his own portfolio. We, still do the sourcing and stuff like that. And with the women in property thing, last year we spoke about it briefly. Sorry, I feel like I speak so much.
I'm the same, don't worry. There's just so much you can say and share, which is good though, because everyone watching will get such a good insight, especially sorry, I'm going to be quiet in a second, but like young people getting into property, because there is this barrier of, I don't have money, I don't have 30, 40, 50K to put into a property. So what else can I do? How can I get that experience? Like what is it that I can do to get into it? Because there's always an opportunity. And like you just mentioned, you didn't even know your colleague, is it your colleague or your manager?
At the time,
yeah, at the time, like you didn't even know that was going to be a partnership. So it's just crazy how things work, because when you want to do something, there's always going to be a way.
There's always going to be a way. Exactly. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the women in property thing, last year I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to put myself out there more, and I want to do business with more women. You know, I also want to network with more women. And I just feel like, I mean, we was having a conversation, there's just still not enough women in property, like young women.
Yeah.
And that was the whole goal, just to kind of create a community to bring, you know, every woman together, exchange business, you know, share tips, advice, and just produce content that will actually help and encourage women.
Yeah.
So that's that. But my sourcing company is called Taintless Property Solutions. So that's separate, intertwined with what I'm doing basically.
So you're doing rent to rent, you're doing property sourcing, and you're doing women in property as well. So 3 things.
Basically, yeah.
And what would you say you made that transition? Because you said you started 4 years ago, but then you started learning about property 4 years ago, but then you actually started in 3 years ago. What made you click, and what made you like persevere through? Is it for me? Is it not for me?
I think it was just seeing, because at the time, there were like other younger people doing it, and I was thinking, hold on, they don't look so old, you know, like, you know, they look a reasonable age. So if they can do it, why can't I? And it's also the education based around it, because once I got my head around it,
yeah,
I was thinking, actually, hold on, I can actually do this. You know, it's not as hard as it looks. Obviously, it's not easy, as you know, as you would know. And also, you know, like the events that I went to as well, you know, they make it sound easy, so it kind of gives you that confidence you can do it. So yeah, it was just basically doing the research and coming to terms like, this is actually something I want to do. This is what I see myself doing. And ultimately, I do want a portfolio of my own properties in the future. So why not start now?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the transition basically.
That's amazing. And how important was the education side? Because I see a lot of people dismiss education, and I personally think it's very important. But how important was it for you in your journey?
I would say it was very important because I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't do it. In terms of my education, I did go with Samuel Leeds. I'm sure everyone knows who that is in the property world by now. And the funniest thing is that I did his 3-day course in Birmingham. And then there was this thing at the end where, like, if you write a book review or something, you can get, they basically put your name in a raffle and then they pull it out and then you can get his extensive course. So came to the end of the 3 days, and I was on my way back to London and I received a call and I was like, Toni, you've been selected to do the extensive course.
What are the chances?
What are the chances? And I said, God, this has to be you.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to do it. So that was really helpful. And then I just continued to, you can still go down the route of, you know, learning yourself, you know, by YouTube and all of that type of thing. But like when you have like a mentor or somebody there that's already doing it, and they can guide you through it, it is also really helpful.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and I definitely think like when you're going through the motions of learning stuff, because it's all well and good sitting in a classroom or like watching a YouTube video, but when you're out there, it's totally different. Even the basics of how to buy a property, I had no idea. They never teach you like actually how to buy a property, like what you actually need to do. So just learning it in the motions and asking questions with people who are like a little bit ahead of you or like way ahead of you is just a massive bonus anyway. Someone who's actually done it.
Exactly. And also, like, I remember when I first started, it's also that encouragement you get when you do training, and work with somebody, because if it was like, if I just used my own and did it on my own, like, I don't think I would have took myself to the estate agencies, and those conversations, like I wouldn't have, I would have missed it completely. But yeah, it was really helpful having that.
And one thing that I want to ask you about the estate agents or any landlords that you speak to, I know we had a brief conversation on your live about it, but how do you feel like they perceive you? Because sometimes as young people, they just think, oh, you don't have experience, you don't have the money, etc. Like, how did you feel and how did you build up your confidence to say, this is my business, this is what I'm doing, this is how I've helped other people?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because when I first started out, I mean, even when I was working with the agency, like, I didn't really have that much self-confidence. So that's why I am happy that I did start there, because it did help build my confidence, being in that field, speaking to landlords, doing deals with other agencies. It did kind of build my confidence from there, so that when I did go out on my own, I was kind of already familiar with speaking to people. But even if you haven't started out like as an estate agent or took the same route as me, it's all about just believing in yourself, believing what you can do and what you're capable of, and just plucking up the courage, just to go out there. And it's also just having your purpose and your vision in mind. That's really important. But for me, I mean, even now, I look like a 16-year-old. So I still get it now, but it's about building up the tough skin and just being resilient, and being able to answer the questions clearly as well.
Yeah, perfect. It's so funny you say that, because I get IG to buy Red Bull and I'm like, it's 16. But there's two things I wanted to ask you. So any tips or tricks that you have being young in property, and I hate using that terminology, but I kind of have to accept that that's what we are. But what advice would you give for someone who is 21, 22, starting out in property, not sure if it's for them, they think that they don't have a lot of money? What advice would you give to them to get started?
So what I would say is, put yourself out there first and foremost. Do your research, read the books, but don't become what's the word? Lazy. If that's the right word.
Yeah. A course junkie.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the one. Don't let it get to that stage. But by putting yourself out there, meeting people, joining, like, for example, there's so many Facebook groups with investors, property sources, all of that type of thing. So it could be as simple as putting a post up. Hi there, I'm looking to get into property. What would be the best steps? You might be able to find a mentor there, that will be able to guide you, take you by the hand and just lead you through it. Networking events as well. I think we spoke about that, and a few of the other ladies that I spoke to. And just being, what's the word? Just being an open book, and that's what I would say, really. Just put yourself out there, have the confidence, know what know your goals, what you're aiming towards, and then take it from there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that is great advice. And I think it's just putting yourself out there and just connecting with the right people, because like you can put it on your Facebook, you can put it on your Instagram, but if it's just part of your network, it's not going to be as beneficial rather than just going straight into those property groups, because everyone in those property groups is there for a reason, right? So you never know what opportunities that could bring you. And like for you, you got free course out of it, so so you just never know. And so the second question I wanted to ask you is, where do you see yourself and your portfolio, or what do you see yourself doing in 5 years time?
So in 5 years time, I see myself, so ultimately I see myself, because the thing is that property for me is just a vehicle to get to my goals, if that makes sense. So of course I enjoy the property stuff. I really enjoy it, but ultimately I do want to be a business coach. So that's what I see myself doing in 5 years' time. Business coaching, maybe tying a bit of life coaching into it as well. In terms of property-wise, I see myself owning, a healthy portfolio, maybe around 3 to 5 properties, investment properties. I see my rent-to-rent portfolio growing by then as well. And basically just having a successful property sourcing business as well as the other things that I'm focusing on by then.
Okay, perfect. I want to focus on the property sourcing side of things, just because that's what my page is about, and like trying to help people who are like me, working full time, don't have the funds or like the capital to invest in London, but moving out. But how did you get started in sourcing? I know you kind of mentioned that you were working in estate agents, but what is it that made you go into sourcing itself?
So what made me go into sourcing was just to, because obviously I wanted to do rent to rent at that time as well. I didn't have the funds to do it. So I thought, okay, what's the next best way for me to get funds, still be in property, and obviously achieve my goal in terms of getting my first rent to rent up and going. So I came across sourcing, and then from there I just started to look more into it, do the research, and yeah, I just began like finding properties, obviously produce, healthy return, all of that type of stuff. And then when I got into the gist of it, I then began to take it seriously. So then I registered for all of the like the licenses and become compliant, and then just continue to build and create an income from it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm glad you touched upon the compliance stuff, because that is very important, just to make sure that you're covered and that your investors are covered. How did you start to find your investors to sell the deals to?
So I LinkedIn, very, very good. A lot of networking on there. Instagram as well. But one thing that I wish I would have done in the beginning was to put myself out there more.
Yeah.
Because I know, ironic. Ironic.
You all say that. But it's true though, because any piece of advice is just get out there now. So
yeah, exactly, because I was co-sourcing for a lot of associates, their clients. So at that point I only had a few. But yeah, when I started to put myself out there, speak to more people on LinkedIn, go to networking events, speak to people on Facebook, I just began to build like a clientele there. And yeah, so that's how I got my clients, if that makes sense. But yeah, one thing that I wish I would have done is just put myself out there, because I'm such an introvert.
Yeah.
It was really difficult for me at the beginning, but now I'm literally ready to go.
It's so weird though, because I was a massive extrovert. I still am to a certain degree, but I still couldn't get myself out there. Even though I am a social butterfly, I just couldn't put myself out there on social media.
It's daunting. It was so daunting, honestly.
It's crazy, right? You mentioned co-sourcing. Can you just like go into a little bit of that, like what is it and what you did there?
Yeah, sure. So co-sourcing basically means when you have a deal, let's say, for example, you work with another sourcer, and they have an investor that's potentially interested in the deal that you're offering. So it's basically doing business with other property sourcers. They have the client, you have the deal, and then you come together, marry the two, and then deal is exchanged.
That's such a great way to build credibility, because because I understand when you're starting out, I mean, everyone has to start somewhere, but it can be the make or break between people and people buying into you. So that is experience in itself. So it's just great to see different ideas of how to get started, whether it's, co-sourcing, whether it's rent to rent and building up experience there, or there's just a million and one ways to get into property, right?
Yeah, honestly, but that was really helpful for me, because at that point I still didn't really have the confidence to go out there. So the co-sourcing really did help with that. Yeah.
And do you, because I know everyone structures their business differently, do you do bespoke sourcing, or is it you just find a great deal and you just put it out into your network?
Yes. So started out the way that you just explained, so just finding great deals. But now we've made it more bespoke. So basically, when an investor comes on board, we send over a questionnaire, just like a Google form. And on that, we basically find out all the details, what they're looking for, what area they're looking for, how long they've been in business, how many properties they currently have, just to get a bit of a more idea of the investor that we're working with. So from there, we kind of, deliver a bespoke service.
Yeah, perfect. And just in terms of me being an investor going and working with a property sourcer, I guess what would, like, so say for example, like we sign up, like what would your process be? Say that I'm interested in working with you, like what is that process? Sorry, I know I rambled on a little bit there.
That's fine. So the process would look like you filling out that form with details of what you're looking for. Filling out that form. And then from there, we would send an email just to confirm everything in terms of how we work. Once a property comes on board that we find fit for you, we send over a recording of the property. Then from there, you can decide if you'd want to do a viewing or not. We organize a viewing. You're interested in the property, you put an offer forward. So to secure the property, because obviously we'll probably have other, people interested in the same area or same type of property, we would request a holding deposit. So the holding deposit is £1,000, and that gets basically deducted from the overall sourcing fee. And then, so holding deposit place, we require the referencing. And then, we basically deal with everything up until the keys are handed over.
Perfect. And do you offer a full service, or is it, this is the deal, we'll help you get it across the line and then it's just yours?
Yes, so we have actually recently taken on the management perspective as well. So that's something that we are actually currently looking to do as well. Just because, investors like yourself, you're working, you don't really want to handle the project or, the renting.
I have no clue when it comes to that. Honestly, I have no clue.
Exactly. And with the rent-to-rent stuff, you obviously want to get the rooms rented in a decent time. So you obviously don't lose out. So that is something that we provide as well.
Yeah, perfect. And what locations do you source in?
So predominantly London. We do have investors that look for deals in like Birmingham, Manchester. Because we're so familiar with London, we're sticking to London at the moment. But actually we will branch out, into those areas, definitely.
Yeah, perfect. And what tips and tricks do you have for investors, like working with property sources just in general?
Tips, I would say just make sure that you do your own due diligence as well as relying on the sourcer, because there's a lot of sources out there that they'll kind of exaggerate the figures, and if you're a new investor, I'm sure you know how it goes. If you're a new investor, you don't really know, like you'll be stuck with a rent-to-rent that's actually not producing what was promised. So definitely do your own due diligence, make sure that it's going to be profitable and it makes sense for you. That's what I would say.
And is it okay, because I do this with people that I work with, is question how did they get the end value, how did they get the rental, how did they get the refurb quotes, etc. Do you find that investors do that with you, or do they just kind of just go with it?
No, so we do get some investors that, once we send over the details of the deal, so what we do is we send over the minimum profit that can be made and the maximum profit. So we give them both scenarios. So with that being said, they do ask, how did you come to the minimum, maximum, etc. And yeah, we're an open book. We send it over to them, and we include the prices, etc. Yeah.
See, this is what I love, is the transparency, because there's so many people that I've spoken to, and I'm like, how did you get that number? And they just, that was the end of the conversation.
Don't do anything.
So, it's just crazy. And then in terms of people getting in contact with you, how do they do that? And like, if you can summarize like what you source and how they can get in contact with you.
So I do have I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn.
I'll put all your links below as well.
Yes, to be honest, I haven't really been active on LinkedIn recently because I've been focusing on a few other things, but once that's out of the way, I'm going to be back active on there. But yeah, mainly Instagram and Facebook I'm quite active on. So yeah, people can get in touch with me there, as well as my women page if they want to as well.
Yeah, perfect. And like, one final question is, any tips or anything that you've learned from your journey that you can share with anyone? It could be anything within property or anything like that. Any just like final tips?
Final tips.
I know there's such a hard question because
it is.
It's just so broad.
on the spot. So I would say final tips is just, I know it's going to sound generic, but it's actually true, and it's something that we should tell ourselves every day, is to actually believe in ourselves, you know. And just because you're having a bad day, don't let it affect your business. You know what I mean? Keep the two separate. Just be consistent in whatever you're doing. And yeah, just have that mindset, know what you're working towards, what your end goal is, what your purpose is, and do something little every day. I can't remember who I was speaking to about this. It was a friend actually. You know, like how people say, yeah, you need to do this, get up at 5 o'clock, do all of that. You don't need to do. Of course, it's good. You know, you maximize your day by all means.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but as long as you're doing something small every day, it could just be sending one email. Obviously, you don't just want to send one email, but like, just do something. Be consistent with what you're working towards, I would say.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, because everything that you just said, like the consistency, it is key. Like, your journey, you know, it took you nearly a year to decide whether property was right for you. Then you worked in an estate agent for 2 years. Like, that is relatively a long time for people to comprehend that, is this business going to work for me or not? People just want instant results, and you know, it's just being realistic. And that, what you said about consistency, doing something small every single day, it's just massive. That's such a great tip. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for this interview. I'll put your socials below, so anyone who wants to get in contact with you can get in contact with you. If any women in property want to jump on a live with you on Instagram, please feel free to reach out. It's such an amazing platform. I wish I did something with women in property, just because we are technically a minority in this field of space. But yeah, it was so lovely to have this interview with you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Radhika. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Yeah, I love what you're doing. Continue doing what you're doing. So inspiring, honestly. Like,
thank you.
Just keep going, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, speak to you soon, Radhika.